Hello and welcome back to the Spiritual Wealth Podcast. Today, my guest, Mitchell Steinke, a friend that I met early in my entrepreneurial journey, standing right next to me over here. And today we talk about a whole bunch of interesting topics. Mitch is someone who loves our planet. That is when I think of Mitch is somebody who loves this planet and wants to do everything possible to protect it and make sure that it's healthy. So we get into those topics on the podcast today, and he actually has a nice, amazing song that he actually came up with when he was at Fairy Creek, which is something that we talk about on the podcast as well, something that occurred in British Columbia, an activist movement to protect the old growth forests. So stay tuned after the podcast to listen to one of Mitch's great songs that I actually love humming along to when I walk down the street. So hope you enjoy it. Welcome, Mitchell.
Thanks, Brad.
Mitchell Steinke. Is that how you say it?
That is how I say it, yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Welcome to the Foundations podcast.
I'm super excited to be here. This is, been kind of a long time coming, I feel like. A nice, long, extended, recorded conversation between Brad and Mitchell.
Has that been a long time coming?
I think it has, man.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay, well,
I don't know when.
Then I'm glad we're doing it.
I don't know when it started, but I'm sure that this is a stop in the road.
Yeah, cool. So I met you. When did I meet you, actually?
Over 10 years ago.
Has it been 10 years?
It's been about a decade.
So
maybe just under a decade. 9 years ago.
Right. Yeah. And I met you as an entrepreneur. Well, that's how we came face to face. We were in the Entrepreneurial College Pro Painters community, which is a franchise system for young emerging entrepreneurs to learn business skills. That's
pretty much.
Yeah.
I think we met in a conference center somewhere in Richmond, but the boringest place in the planet to be sitting in it was one of those like chain hotel rooms. And we had a few conversations, but then we didn't really connect for like a while after that because you transitioned out of College Pro and I was still in it.
How many years did you?
2 years.
2 years, yeah.
And I think we only overlapped for 1 year, and you were like, I'm going places. Goodbye. Thank you very much. Nice to see you guys. And it was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, that's Brad. Yeah, Brad was an interesting fella too. And then I think years later we just connected because you kept that free spirit. And we both always had that free spirit in entrepreneurship, I think. In the businesses we ran, it was like, let's just have fun. You know, like not just have fun with running the businesses, but let's have fun outside of work.
Yeah.
It was like...
I think the whole community was like that, really, though.
I think some people ended up having the privilege of like setting up their expectations of the way they perceived running the business in a way where they weren't like drowned by the fires and all the little things that, you know, entrepreneurship brings. It's like anything could go wrong any day and you could make that the worst part of your day and then dwell on it for like a whole week. And your friend could be like, oh, how's it going? And you're like, oh, well, this thing happened to me on Tuesday. And you're like, dude, it's Friday. Like, let it go.
Actually, what I really liked about that whole franchise system was, one, they gave you a system to follow. Two, you had a bunch of people going through the same battle as you. So you weren't alone, which is, I think, one of the biggest things in entrepreneurship is you feel lonely.
Yeah.
So you weren't alone. Like someone would be like, "Oh, this devastating problem," but then somebody was like, "I had that one already." So it normalized the fire at putting out aspect of entrepreneurship. Like that's normal.
Yeah, there was a community of people who are like a step or literally a year ahead of you.
Yes,
and they had gone through that exact same thing like 12 months prior. So it was a
Supporting
weird
you.
like trauma bonding in a way. It was like, oh, go talk to one of your peers. They're going through the same shit. It's like, okay, then you don't want to talk to one of your peers. Like, go talk to someone who's been here and done that and really already experienced what you're experiencing because they're alive and they're living and they're happy and or
Then-
not maybe, but at least they've been through it.
And you also had a coach. They gave you get a coach. They're just like, here's a coach. Here's all the people who are going through battle with you. And here's the system. Just follow this and you'll get it.
Yeah.
Wow. That was actually pretty good.
It's a pretty phenomenal program. It's really a shame that like they aren't around anymore. Because when you think about it,
College pro painters.
yeah, when you think about college pro painters, specifically college pro and the autonomy that they gave their franchisees, like my sister, Audrey, she went through the Student Works program like almost half a decade later. And she basically was handed a system where there was a lot of the administrative stuff done for you, like payroll and expense tracking that was like really regimented because of the way that their corporation was set up.
But then you don't get to learn all those admin skills.
Yeah, which are the shitty things, the things that you like really don't want to do, but they're administrative and they run the business. It's like that operations of the business that, you know, you can avoid if you pass it off to an accountant or a payroll company or something like that. And we had some of that, but we still had to track the hours in a different way that they did. And so I found that that was like that extra burden that College Pro as a corporation took on to allow their franchisees to all do it their own way.
Yeah.
Really was like an act of service. It was like, hey, this is actually going to be more inefficient, but you need to learn these lessons, not for us, but for you and your future. And I really applaud that in like what College Pro brought to the table in the realm of college painting companies.
Yeah.
Obviously in Canada, I think the US models might have been different as well, but.
And now here we are.
Yeah.
So that's how we met, is the entrepreneurial model. We later kind of rekindled and as just friends.
Yeah.
Re-met each other as friends. But you went on, you stayed in entrepreneurship, and you kind of went on to, I want to bring up LifeUnpacked, which is a company that you now currently own and operate. Mm-hmm. And, but you basically made your way to social entrepreneurship and just like actually using entrepreneurship to benefit the world and yourself in a way that actually aligns.
Yeah.
And help with the current situation of our planet. And I'm not even sure what the question is I want to ask you, but I want to tell me more about LifeUnpacked. Why did you buy the company? You actually bought it.
Yeah.
And your journey with LifeUnpacked. I mean, that's your entrepreneurial path.
I think that a lot of things with LifeUnpacked are still unknown.
What is LifeUnpacked?
But it's a company. LifeUnpacked is a zero waste bathroom products company based in Vancouver. And so what that means is we basically sell and provide solutions to Canadians in their bathroom that do not involve plastic. So whether it's a plastic toothbrush or a shampoo bottle or a toothpaste tube, or the shitty floss that we could run around the world a few times every year, just from Canadians using it alone. That's really the service that we provide, like, is a product-based company. And beyond that, it's really the hope that, you know, we can eliminate plastic in our daily lives and change the consumption habits of our little monkey brains into a way that we actually are more aligned with this earth that we.
How hard is that proving to be? Changing consumption habits.
Right. It's a big thing, but I think that's really why I got into it, was understanding that the service-based businesses really play on a human-based level, right? You're either servicing a building that a human lives in, or you're servicing a human, or you're servicing some need of a human. And I think the products that you can sell in a product-based business, depending on what they are, they not only impact the human experience, but they also impact the things that ripple out from that. And I saw LifeUnpacked as this opportunity to really bring forward an innovative solution that was simple to our problem in our brains, which is the fact that we just consume way too much and we don't focus on the production, how things are made.
I noticed you used the word saw. Do you see it that way still?
That's a good question. I think so. You know, I think there's still a huge opportunity there it just hasn't unfolded the way we had expected it originally.
Right.
I think you come into an opportunity like LifeUnpacked and buying it, realizing and having a lot of optimism that the market conditions are favorable in a way that the world is going to become more aware, about this plastic pollution problem, and they're going to make different choices, and they're going to change their consumer habits because of it.
Is a lot of your job education then?
Huge. I would say all of my job is education. And the hardest part about the education that I'm doing is continuing to do it, because it's so demoralizing trying to explain to people what is going on and why things are broken and why we're providing a solution when it kind of lands on deaf ears.
Well, tell me now. I'd probably put myself in part of those deaf ears. What is going on? Because plastic is where I've really heard you like a lot of passion. Mm-hmm. Also mixed with other emotions and anger, maybe. But it's like plastic is at the root of the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, I think plastic is there. It's at the core. And what's going on is human beings have become so apathetic to what they hear and feel from the consumption of marketing messages that they get bombarded with. And without going down a large rabbit hole about media literacy, a concept and thing that I studied for half a decade as I transitioned out of university at SFU, was that relationship between the human mind and our psychological ability to process messages and what they are, and then our inability to actually act on everything that happens. And so we become so apathetic that we see a red flag and we go, oh, that's a red flag, cool. I'm just gonna go over to this purple flag, and then I'm gonna go to this yellow flag, and then I'm gonna go to this green flag, and I'm just gonna not worry about this big red flag that was waved at me down the road.
Right.
And we keep moving forward, not understanding that these things are real and we have to actually take action on them. And that part of that education is really challenging, because really what's happening is as soon as you acknowledge the red flag, all the other flags don't matter.
Right.
So as soon as you buy a bamboo toothbrush, and this is like, I really appreciate anyone who's listening to this podcast, because they obviously have a level of awareness around their decision-making patterns and the impact that those decisions make on their lives. Whether it's a decision in entrepreneurship to do X or Y, to hire, Jane or Joe, whether it's, to change your website model to be, I want to have a video up top versus a photo. Like, there's implications to the environment on all fronts for all of these things, including your toothbrush.
Doesn't this get overwhelming? Is that probably why people don't? It's just too overwhelming.
It's too much, right? It cracks down right to the core. It's like, I don't want to buy that bamboo toothbrush, because then everything I buy that's plastic, I need to start finding solutions for. So,
right. Like, it's like when you buy one really nice thing and then you want everything else to match that level of niceness.
I guess so.
I feel like the first thing I ever bought that was really nice was my camper truck, my Sprinter van. Mm-hmm. And after that, like, my standard for everything went up. And maybe it's the similar. You buy a bamboo toothbrush and then you're like, oh crap, look at all this other plastic stuff.
Exactly. And it becomes so overwhelming for the human, our consumers, our customers, right? Canadians in general. They can't acknowledge that. And that's really troubling. So I think that's where, like, that opportunity we saw when I stepped in to own the company and run it. I didn't see the other side of that coin, which is, if things don't go well, you pour all this passion into save the planet in this product, and it doesn't take off and become a multi-million-dollar company overnight, which is what you're thinking. Like, okay, the world's going to wake up.
Were you thinking that?
That's the trajectory that we're still on, because it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when things happen. That's the beauty of product marketing or product development, which is something that I've been engaged with on a service-based level as well with some of my other work that I did after I transitioned out of College Pro, is like, these products help people, they help the humans, they help other things, and they trickle out. That effect that trickles out really makes a real big impact. And as soon as one person starts to like a thing, everyone all of a sudden starts liking a thing. Think of Sprinter vans.
It's a flywheel thing. It's like the momentum happens. Yeah.
Think about your Sprinter van, right? Like, you bought that thing maybe 5 years ago now, kind of. Like, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And since then, like, they have really become a thing.
Yes,
and Mercedes they built this Sprinter van, they built this product that's going to service a human, and then the human just loved so much that eventually all humans wanted it. And so we're trying to figure out, how do we reconnect people with their human nature in the earth, so that they want the earth as bad as we want the earth, because like that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah. And really, this is all it comes down to protecting the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this journey of social entrepreneurship is not something that I kind of thought I was going to stumble myself into when I started my entrepreneurial journey. But I think the blend between starting an entrepreneurial journey and then working on
activism.
and some activism and awareness, and working through a different product-based business where we were developing software for physical therapy offices, and understanding like product can be a software, product can be, a product. It can be a piece of paper. It can be a toothbrush. And that product needs to, blend with the needs and the requirements of the consumer or the user. Yeah. And I'm really working through that, because ultimately our prized possession is our tooth powder. That's the opportunity that will continue to arise, will continue to flourish our business as we go down this flywheel approach. So it's just a matter of when people realize that the toothpaste tube can't be recycled, goes in the landfill. We'll get into it later, but recycling is a joke to begin with, right? And
should we get into it now?
I don't know if we should go there right now, but like that concept, eventually people will wake up to the illusion of what's happening and how we're just kind of not there yet. And as soon as we're connected and we understand the impact of our toothpaste tubes and our toothbrushes and our shampoo bottles, well, collectively, everyone's going to want something different. If we can provide it to them at an affordable price, then all of a sudden, instead of having, a couple thousand customers, we have tens of thousands, millions of customers. And if we have 1 million customers spending $50 a year, that's $50 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So when you even just do the simple math, why we got into it is because we know people need to wake up. So I want to spend money and effort and time into helping educate people to this opportunity, because we can eliminate so much plastic by just making a simple choice. And we can track the core tangible amount of plastic we're eliminating from the products we sell. And then we can probably derive some kind of...
You do track it.
We do track it.
Yeah.
We've eliminated over 250,000 pieces of plastic. But there's all the other pieces of plastic that have not been created because of our education initiatives to help new people who wouldn't traditionally buy plastic toothbrushes or bamboo toothbrushes make that switch.
Yeah, and it's such a small product, and there's such a big impact if you actually just accelerate it out, and the compound effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's 35 million Canadians or something like that. They probably buy 2 toothbrushes a year, so there's 70 million toothbrushes that get sent out and produced and sold to dentists who give them to people or directly to a person. And so that's 70 million times, let's say $5 per toothbrush. I mean, that's a $1.4 billion.
Big industry.
I think that's $1.4 billion in Canada alone for bamboo toothbrush products, if everyone's toothbrush was bamboo. So even if you take $1 billion revenue market and you save 10% of people. So let's hope and pray 10% of Canadians do something about this. There's a huge opportunity that we're positioning ourselves to seize, which is great, because people need to wake up. And with that money that we'll make and the money we have made, we'll do epic shit like Patagonia. We'll produce films. And I don't just say that and talk the talk and just go talk myself down a trail and not walk the walk. I mean, we literally have I've put myself on the front lines, like you mentioned, and really stepped into a role as a leader to set a new standard for someone who's going to say, I own an eco-friendly company, or I'm a CEO of an eco-friendly brand or whatever. Okay, cool. What do you do in your spare time to actually help the earth?
Well, you do a lot.
What do you do with the money you make from your eco-friendly brand? Do you buy a Lamborghini? Do you go on trips to
Dude, it's a rabbit
Mexico?
hole. It keeps going and going. And
yeah, where do you go with it? So I think that process just enlightened me.
With that being said, it's I've kind of gone down this process myself before of I'm trying to align myself with my values, and I've made me miserable. And I feel like you have also done that before as well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's not worth pursuing, but it can get stressful. If you keep going, because like you said, you could do all the steps and make that $1 million and then just buy a Lamborghini. And it's like, and I don't even know if there's anything wrong with the Lamborghini, but the point is like to continually reinvest everything back into
your values,
which are ideally aligned with the planet Earth.
Yeah.
Right. But I've also seen, like, I kind of want to speak to, I've seen you stress yourself out.
Yeah. I mean, definitely you have witnessed it.
I've watched you do it.
Time over time, like there'll be a week or 2 or months will pass. It's like, we'll hang out. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Go climbing or, have a social gathering and it's like, oh, life's great. And then all of a sudden it starts boiling and it hits a tipping point, and that tipping point ends up in a kind of, you get burnt out. You definitely do. And I think that's kind of some lessons that I've
that's
learned.
okay, right? That you figure out your tipping point and then you like step it back a bit, and it's like, because it takes time to realign.
Yeah. It's like going to the gym and pushing a weight, and you fail sometimes, but you really want to push a bigger weight. And I don't necessarily at this point want the responsibility of what is being pursued and brought to the realm of my awareness. But at the same time, I look around and I understand that I need to step up into that calling because I feel it. It's not just something that I intellectually can realize and comprehend. It's a feeling that says, look, Mitchell, you need to do something extraordinary with this opportunity because the earth needs something extraordinary to happen.
Well, you have to act. You kind of don't have a choice at some level too. Once you become aware, you can't unbecome aware of it.
Exactly.
So you now know. It's like any realization. Once you know, you know.
Once you know, and that's the education piece, right? And we're trying to find a way. And I'd love for people to share their thoughts on how they feel one company like ourselves, who tries to act so authentically in this ability to protect our planet and eliminate plastic, can go about convincing more people without guilt. How do you do it without guilting people into saying you're making the bad choice?
How do you market?
Is the bad choice.
Right.
Where's the fine line? Because we continually live in this apathetic world where people won't really take action unless their emotions are triggered. And in a politically sensitive, very gentrified world that we kind of live in and exchange conversations in, there's a very delicate line there where people will get insulted. Like, we had a Christmas campaign about Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and we got negative feedback because we had genderfied Santa Claus.
What?
So like,
oh no,
like where does the line get drawn when you're just trying to make the world a better place?
I'm not even gonna ask. Okay, yeah, and I think that's really interesting. Like, yeah, you don't want to guilt people into things. Like, you want to inspire, really. Like, but there's, that we know fear is such a useful way to market to people, and like fear of missing out and all these other tools. Mm-hmm. If you study marketing. But they're just such low vibration ways to do it, to get the action, but then everyone's in a lower vibration. So even if they are doing it, it's out of fear.
Exactly. And that's the thing that's so challenging, because we've been battling this veil of things that don't work. And we're trying to show people like, hey, what you're doing, it is, yes, you're getting that feeling of I'm inspired, but I'm sorry, folks, it doesn't work. And what I'm talking specifically about is recycling. You are so inspired to put your soft plastics in this bag, and then your cans in that bag, and your paper recycling in this bag, but people don't understand the details of what unfolds before that piece of plastic ended up in your kitchen that you now have to recycle, or in your household, or and after it
reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 R's, right? It's
there's 5.
Reduce, reuse, repair, repurpose, recycle.
Ooh.
And that's something we actually talk about at LifeUnpacked in our annual report, is like this concept of why recycling doesn't work, and bursting this bubble for people in kind of hopefully a bit of an inspiring way.
So you're trying to burst the bubble of it so that it really just falls on like reduce a lot. So it's like just reduce a lot, and then like last resort do the other ones, because it's once you have not done the reduce one, we've got plastic in the house, and then the system really sucks after that point.
It really does. And I don't know, we haven't really talked about what the visuals of this podcast will unfold, but I will show people who are watching the screen, at least, they can check it out on our website. We have this like poster, basically explains why recycling doesn't work. And my friend challenged me, was like, there's no way this is wrong. Like, this has got to be better. And I looked at it for another hour with him, and I corrected it because it was actually worse after we looked at it more thoroughly. So you can see, like, I'll pull this down now, but basically you can see through that diagram, which you can look at in more detail later, that after a piece of plastic goes through the system, one cycle goes around, okay, now we have 10% of what we had left. Next time it goes around, we have half of that and another 10%. So now we have basically 5%, 0.5%. You go through it another time and you have basically nothing. After 3 cycles of a piece of plastic, you end up with like 0.25% of plastic is still in use. So if plastic goes through a cycle every, call it 2 years, but I know it goes through faster through the system. After 6 years, your plastic bottle you think is getting recycled is literally in the landfill. So
recycling doesn't work.
Yeah, so this recycling thing is an absolute joke. It sucks. It sucks to have to come up on, these types of podcasts and educate people. Like we're talking about, like, what do you do? It's educate these people of this illusion that it's broken. The system is broken. This particular system, if we just focus on that right now, about the recycling system, it's broken because the corporations that run, Walmart and Loblaws, like those corporations that exist, we know those names. They're the ones who also are running the extended producer responsibility programs, extended EPR programs, like Recycle BC. Recycle BC on their board of directors, yes, they have some environmental waste management board directors, but the chairman and the people who sit with the decision-making power of that board are the president of Loblaws Canada, the president of Walmart Canada. So they're there to help provide information and great data and tracking and systems around this is why recycling works. This is how it goes down. But they don't work because when you actually look at the numbers and you just do the math and you take all the bullshit of their PR away and you strip down this veil that has been put up, you realize it doesn't work. And that is important for people to hear, because it's not like I'm sitting here spreading some conspiracy theory. We literally quote Recycle BC and the Canadian government on our website. So there's nothing, it's not hiding. It's just, we need to stop making these decisions that pollute our planet for hundreds of years and destroy our environment.
And that's where you're starting, is start with your bathroom.
Yeah, take that first step. Take your first step and just buy a bamboo toothbrush from us, and then maybe a shampoo bar and some other stuff. And you'll see how epic of a company and a community and a collective will become through that process, because we do everything in our power to make sure that we're connected to Mother Earth and making a decision for 7 generations, and all the things that people talk about that we should do, I believe we're trying our best to do. We're going beyond what a B-Corp does.
Right.
We're trying to set the bar where we're basically Patagonia, but we're a microcosm of what Patagonia is. We're already funding films, on Fairy Creek. And I think that's a good place to focus some of our attention on this conversation, is like in the practices of industrialization of Canada, that system. So just like the system that recycling is broken, there's other systems that really perpetuate this consumer-driven mindset.
The enabling that you've been talking about.
Yeah, and basically we're collectively, these systems are enabling us to exterminate our environment. And I'll say that again. These systems are enabling us to exterminate our environment.
Yeah. And the one what we were talking about earlier, before the podcast, was we both have a shared experience of Fairy Creek. Mm-hmm. And my experience there was that, we were all there congregating to really stand for the beauty of nature and the beauty of this natural environment, which is thousands of years old. Some of these trees are like literally 1,000 years old. And my experience was just like, there's a machine at hand that just it literally cannot be stopped. And it's just like marching through the mindset of man to like destroy it, which was unbelievable for me and sad. And I know you felt that too. And you were there longer than me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much longer I spent on the Fairy Creek grounds than people, but I was there for a pretty extended period of time, definitely around the area, given my early involvement in the, like,
for anyone
public.
watching this, actually, like, what was Fairy Creek? What is it if people don't know what it is?
Yeah, fair. Fairy Creek is an area, it's a watershed on the west coast of Vancouver Island. It's the last intact watershed of ancient forests. That's not old growth forests, because all old growth forests aren't necessarily ancient forests. This area has never been logged, ever. So the organisms that live in this forest have been there for 13,000 years or more. And the cultures that it's supported have been there for time immemorial. And what's happening at Fairy Creek in this watershed is corporations are cutting down cut blocks of old growth trees, clear cutting them, and destroying Alexandria's library, or whatever the hell it's called, of our earth. You know, and so instead of a book of knowledge of all the written words we put on pages,
yeah, it's our knowledge forest.
Our knowledge forests are literally getting raped clean, and we're not doing anything about it collectively. So people stood up and said, "Fuck this." Pardon my French, but that's pretty much what they said. Yeah. And we're going to stand there, and what we experience collectively is the government, the other systems. You know, the government of British Columbia is really just the people of British Columbia. Technically, that's what it is. The Canadian government is just the people of Canada. So collectively, we're enabling these people to facilitate this interaction with the destruction, this interaction, this agreement with corporations to come in and cut logs and give the indigenous peoples a little bit of money. And
it's just all economic. Like, it's just, we need money. We need more money.
Yeah, there's no understanding of a long-term anything. So the system is in place, from the government systems to the corporate systems to the oppression of the indigenous systems, their culture, their way of living, and putting them into a corner so damn deep and dark and hollow that they have no choice but to grab the corporation's hand and shake it so that they can kind of lift themselves up a little bit. Like, fuck. It's and then the media is able to paint this picture between the different stakeholders, and that is
to frame it in the narrative that's best suited to the.
It's just best suited to the time being. Sometimes they say really nice things. Sometimes they don't. But ultimately, people have to realize that, like, what's coming out of this system isn't aligned with the earth. It's aligned with dividing people and segregating not just themselves, but also their concepts of production and consumption.
Right. So
you deal with the chaos of something like Fairy Creek, and it is very hard to, you know, say that that's an expression of what's unfolding, because really that was a very chaotic time. There's a lot of people who had a lot of passion, who were screaming and, you know, really fighting for Earth. And maybe they were doing it for the first time, like myself.
Yeah.
And there's still indigenous people fighting today, and they've been fighting for decades and time immemorial to protect their land and live with their land. So it's really challenging to understand, how can we make that shift? How do we make this shift? How do we make this shift? What do I do? Well, it's more about, what do you stop doing?
Yeah. I like that. What do you stop doing? Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. I feel like, and when you came back from Fairy Creek too, I felt, I do remember a very distinct shift in you, because you went through a lot. And you were quite distressed after it, and then you didn't want to go back. You're like, I can't be in that environment. Like, you weren't doing well.
Yeah, I legally...
Like, from a wellness point of view, like, you weren't looking the most well.
Yeah, I was quite stressed. I mean, legally, I couldn't go back. I didn't want to be thrown in jail because I was arrested at Fairy Creek at the Kaikous camp right when the RCMP showed up, and all of the media were there to capture this moment of time that is just one sliver. And from that point forward, I supported from a distance pretty much for the extent of the entire summer until I applied entrepreneurial principles, actually, and I realized, well, I can spend more time working on my business and other ventures and take all of the ounces of pennies and silver or whatever the heck I'm earning out there in this world, and I can funnel that money towards something else that's going to make an impact. And that's when I made the decision to become the executive producer of Standing with the Ancients, which is the film Jen Moranitz is producing with...
It's called Standing with the Ancients.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that name.
Yeah, with Mark Akbar. Mark Akbar is the director and producer of both of the Corporation films and also Noam Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent. 3 films that all people should watch because it really speaks in more depth to the issues of these broken systems. But that opportunity I saw was, let's put our money where our mouth is. We might not have much money, but let's put it where our mouth is, because what else are we going to do with it? And I can spend time out there on the field, but I can also spend time and money supporting this from a distance so that when things start to dwindle, like now, where there's not a lot of coverage about what's going on, we're still actively working on producing this film, and we're going to drop it, and people are going to drop their jaws because Fairy Creek was the largest act of civil disobedience in the country's history. Beyond just protecting old growth forests, this was the largest single act of civil disobedience. That means more people in the country's history gathered around and were willing to stand up and be arrested for this cause more than any other cause ever put on the grounds of Canadians. I say in quotation marks because that's, the European settlers.
And even with all of that, right now, they're still logging.
And even with all that right now, they're still logging because of the ability for the premier, like Oregon, to say we're going to have some deferral zones. So there's this big wave of victory that goes through the media.
That there's a deferral zone. It's not even saying we're not going to do it. It's just deferring it.
Yeah. And
then you put that in the media to celebrate it. Like,
exactly.
It's a victory.
Exactly. And then meanwhile, they're going to continue to log outside of the deferral zones, and they're going to push that agenda down the line. 2 years from now, they're going to come back and they're probably going to want to log it. And they do that so that there creates this dichotomy, this segregation of people. I experienced it firsthand, not just being arrested and continuing to be involved with it, but also having to come home and my parents are like, well, it's over. Why do you still care about this thing? It's like, holy shit. It's not over. And to have some compassion, I guess, that stems from that's just going to continue to breed around other Indigenous people who've been struggling with this their whole life. I just feel like an idiot talking about it because it's not my story to tell. But people need to hear it. So how do we get it out there? Like,
we're getting it out there right now.
In the most authentic way possible. It really shatters one's heart.
But just listening to you right now, there's so much passion, and it ultimately what you just give a shit about the planet. You care a lot.
You make a decision. Every decision you care about the planet. And that's when it comes back to those values. It's like,
so why have we grown as a species, as a culture, to not care? Why don't we care?
We don't care now.
Is it too far? It's too far away. We don't have a concept of the destruction in the future. I
think the reason why it's so challenging now is because we have collectively disassociated ourselves from nature. And it, even in the most lightest way of possibly saying this, unfortunately, taking your dog for a walk around the park isn't connecting with nature to the degree that we're talking about, because you're being put in a container. You're walking on a given trail in a municipality that is structured. It's not wild.
So we got to take our shoes off and go walk around in the
you
forest.
do.
Yeah.
And then people call you a hippie or a crazy person, and you're like, no, I'm just a fucking human being, people. Thank you very much. And like, I just want to live my life the way I want to live my life. And I don't want to be seen and judged for that. And people have this fear. They're like, I'm going to get judged if I go to a watering hole and I go naked. And it's like, oh my God, someone saw my whole body naked for like 3 seconds while I got into the lake.
Now you're a hippie.
It's like, I just didn't want to, get my clothes wet or some shit. Like, it's just simple human nature to make these decisions that help our planet versus destroy it. And they start in the bathroom for me. And that's where I think most people can achievably start that dissolving and decomposing this problem in their brain, because they're so easily persuaded to continue doing what they're doing, and that ultimately enables them to exterminate our environment and our earth at a high level. All of these things, we're just going to continue buying coffee, going to continue buying these superfoods, I'm going to continue any countless number of activities. And I'm not a perfect human in this sense either. Like, I've produced plastic in my life, and Absolutely. I probably will continue to here and there. But ultimately, every day I strive for that opportunity to make a better choice.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, man. I want to pivot conversation slightly. I don't even remember the word you used earlier.
Umwelt.
Yeah. But you were talking about, with everything we've just discussed, it comes back to awareness. And Umwelt, I don't. What is Umwelt?
Umwelt, spelled UMWELT. It's a zoology term, biology term, that explains the surrounding environment around an animal, not just a human being. So, in the context of my understanding, this term for a human being, their Umwelt would be their ability to taste, see, touch, feel. That's in their realm of awareness.
Yeah.
And capacity. They have the ability to feel, the ability to taste and touch and see. A slug has the ability to slither across the ground.
Yeah.
A bat has the ability to see this echolocation, this world through echolocation.
Yeah. So you brought that up though, because it's fun. It's super interesting because we started this conversation talking about like entrepreneurship, where we came from, social, but it all comes back down to just what are we aware of in our lives. And a lot of what interests me now is becoming more aware of myself and what is myself, and what are the behaviors that are not in alignment and are destroying myself internally and externally. And that's what it seems like you've come to as well now. You're like questioning everything at a much higher level. Much greater awareness. Mm-hmm.
When you take an action that isn't in alignment with your environment, you feel it as soon as you kind of get
if
there.
You're in touch with what you feel.
Totally.
A lot of people, something I learned recently, or like maybe a year and a bit ago, but like as I started studying just coaching and stuff a lot more, a lot of us don't know how to actually identify our own feelings. Like, we're not that good at it. And I got this big chart, so now I like look at that to with all the different emotions and the actual ability to accurately identify what I feel in my life. It's a weak skill.
It's a weak skill collectively, right? Because it's hard. I'm sorry, folks. Like, crack the veil and like crack the egg around.
But you got to be aware of what you feel.
And you start feeling shit, and it's overwhelming. You start feeling a passion for the planet. You start feeling love for another human being. You start feeling love for the planet. You shift everything because it changes the way you feel. So you expand that awareness, and you realize that there's such a simple divine solution to all of this pollution we're creating, all of the trauma that's being, perpetuated. It just all comes down to consumption, to the desire to do. I need to do something. Why do you need to do anything?
That's a good question. And is it what? Why do we need to do things?
We collectively, I think, need to do things so that other generations of beings can also be. So anything you're doing that isn't in alignment with allowing other people to be, you're basically robbing those people and I say beings because you're literally robbing them the ability to express their love and gratitude for this world, this creation, this earth. Like, who gave you the right to tell the polar bears that they weren't allowed to live anymore? I'm sorry. Like,
yeah,
I don't know what law you live in, but apparently that ability for people to disassociate themselves from their actions and the impacts that they're making is a modern phenomenon that, like,
yeah, it really
baffles
is.
my mind.
Yeah.
And you can sit in ceremony or circle, you can have friends over for potlucks, you can talk about these things, but that's where that concept of apathy comes back. It's like you're just sitting on a white throne pillar talking about this shit and not getting your hands dirty in the soil, literally. Like, if that's the one thing Fairy Creek taught me, it was like, well, okay, if I'm not going to be out there fighting on the front lines, I'm going to be fighting in the front lines in my backyard where I have a garden.
Yeah,
You know, because like that will connect me. That will help me understand the Umwelt of more things, like a carrot and what it needs to grow so that it can feed me, so that I can feed the world inspiration and help educate them. Or, you know, the Umwelt of a bee that's like, I need you, Mitchell, to put some flowers that have some color around here so I can see where I'm going. Like,
totally,
little
man.
things like that just trickle in like lessons once you start to expand an awareness. But at the same time, no one's perfect. So we're going to go on this lifelong journey of expanding our awareness so that other people can have awareness. Like, other beings can be aware of what's going on.
That's how it works. You expand your awareness, you expand your frequency, and it just ripples through everything.
Yeah. So hopefully through this conversation, we are expanding people's awareness to the impact.
You're expanding my awareness right now.
Yeah, of what's happening, you know, on our planet daily, and how your decisions you make when you wake up in the morning, they do impact your life. All the people in the last 15, 20 years who are like, okay, all of a sudden, the thing I need to do in the world to make, you know, this world a better place is I need to be better energetically. I hear this all the time. You know, I just need, my energy is like, management is low or this or that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go do yoga in the morning. I'm going to meditate. And this is where like, I literally like chuckle. I laugh myself to bed sometimes because I'm like, this is delusional and hilarious. I'm going to pretend like I am this holy human. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to feel delightful. I'm going to just be great. I'm going to drink some water. Then I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to do my hygiene for the day. So they're totally in alignment. They're like, this is the greatest day ever. I've journaled. It's 5 a.m. I'm, you know, really going to crush this day. And then they just decide to slap, you know, themselves essentially in the face, because if we continue the path that we're down, like we're not going to be able to do anything. So I think that awareness, when you expand your awareness, one of the things I've found, and this is going to obviously be different for everybody, but is that concept of less is more. You start expanding your awareness, you realize you don't need certain things.
I fully resonate with that. It just, the more whole I've become and felt, then there's just less. You don't need as much stuff, and you're more free after because of that. And it's really ironic because freedom was a driving force my whole, like, for a long time now, and I really thought freedom was about getting more in the early years, and now it's like the less I need, the more free I am to move. Like, whether it's traveling, but just like, you know, even just from like a bank account point of view, I don't need that. One of my favorite things to do is walk through a store and be like, I don't need anything here.
Exactly.
I love it. I'll go in, walk all the aisles, and be like, I don't need anything here.
Yeah, I just revalidated. I mean, that's an amazing, that would be an
It's a
amazing
good practice.
Great practice. Like, I would challenge people to walk into their local grocery store and,
We don't do groceries.
No,
they'll want something in there.
do it. To go to the expert level, walk into that store and don't come out with anything.
Good practice.
That's a solid practice. I mean, you could take it a step down and, go in there and
come out
don't
with tooth powder.
well, yeah, hell, come out with some tooth powder. No, I mean, go in there and don't come up with anything that has plastic around it. And I do that daily, not daily. I do it weekly, regularly.
Yeah.
I'm not in the store every day, but I'm in stores and I don't buy plastic. It's possible. It's so possible. It's not even funny. Or go into another store, go into a climbing store, go into your recreation of choice store, whether it's an art store.
I'm really, next time I go to the grocery store, I'm really going to put my attention on if I buy anything that has plastic that I cannot say no to, and just feel into that experience.
Yeah, because it comes back, and then that enables, right? It's that enablement. If I need X and X only is available in plastic, then
do I need it?
Then do I need it? But ultimately, you end up buying it, right? And you buy it, and then that you didn't have a choice. It's like, where was my other option? I didn't have another affordable option. It's like, okay, well, that's a valid argument, but at the same time, once you kind of acknowledge that argument, I would hope that people are inspired enough to go, holy shit. That's not like the I'm defeated moment where I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep my apathy going. That's the moment you wake up and you go, holy shit, everyone else is struggling with the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's time for us to stop doing this, because other countries, people in this world, people have done it before, people will do it again. It's just about us transitioning. And if we don't want to transition, then we're going to get forced to transition. So like it or not, it's time to change.
Love it. So from here, I thought it'd be what's coming up for me is just minimalism is something that I've been really interested in for a long time, really. Just being very minimal in what I buy. I think it actually started just when I started becoming interested in investing. And I was like, oh, this is just becoming a minimalist, personally a minimalist. And I'd save way more money. And then I'd have more money for investing. But really, it just also, I started to realize all the benefits of just being a minimalist because of just the decluttering of the environment, and then the mind becomes more decluttered, and so on. It's it's not just a physical thing; it's minimizing so that there's a lot of openness and clarity, and less needs and less things pulling you. And I know you have definitely been a minimalist, and you barely even wear shoes sometimes. So I thought that'd be fun to take the conversation towards minimalism.
Yeah, I think it's a relevant bridge, because ultimately, I think at the core of minimalism is this concept of less.
Yeah.
And so we talked about doing less, right?
Having less.
Consuming less. And it really does open up this concept to freedom, because through having less, wanting less, needing less, you are more free to make choices for your life, and
then you have more love, to be honest.
Yeah.
You feel good.
You have more space. You have more space to hold for other people. You have more capacity to love, because you're not bogged down by material things. I think is a very common thing that people think about when they think about minimalism, but it actually bellows beyond that, because it's about minimizing your impact. Right? Minimalism really is about living minimalistically, not just for your own self, but for the collective that is around you. That's not just the people, that's the land as well.
Totally. And right? And that's how it feeds. So like I said, I started investing, but then I discovered all the benefits as I journeyed on with this minimalism thing.
Yeah.
And it's it doesn't really matter where you enter. You get to see all the benefits all around after you start the journey. But I think for me, it started I just decided I want to be minimalistic.
Yeah, I think for me,
and then you get those benefits.
You get those benefits. For me, it started traveling. I think. And
yeah, you really can't carry much.
You really can't carry much. So you bellow it. You just like boil it down. You really boil it down to what do you need. And if you travel for long enough periods of time, not just like a casual month here or there, you start to really live in that backpack, and you realize what you need and what you don't need. And that's where that extra level of experiences started to unfold for me, specifically in Africa, which is, I think, a lot of my traveling that I did recently before I wasn't able to travel more, because a lot of people just kind of stopped having that ability to travel, was this lesson of consuming experiences, because I had already minimalized my life into a backpack and was ready to just take sail and just go.
And then you said you started to minimize experiences.
Yeah. And that, because I realized you get to a place and you're like, so like, why am I going to go?
Like, as opposed to experience hopping and just like chasing experiences.
Exactly, right?
I have to do this experience.
I need to go on this expedition. I need to go to this music festival. I need to go to this store in West Africa because they told me that this was the best place to buy ice cream. Like, it's like, and you're like, oh, I'm a minimalist, but you're like, no, you're minimalizing, but also like, I think it just like, it landed like a big thunderous clap when I came home and my mom was like, oh, look at me, I'm going to go on a bike touring trip with my credit card. And I was like, oh my God, that's as minimalistic as it gets, folks. I got 2 water bottles on my hips. I got a credit card and I got a bicycle.
And I'll only buy what I need.
But I'm going to go on this experience with a credit card. I'm going to go to a hotel and I'm going to...
Oh, that's what she's going to use it for.
Buy a hotel room. I'm going to go and I'm going to buy a nice meal and I go experience all these beautiful things. And I applaud...
Are you saying this is a good thing or a bad thing?
I would say I applaud her for her ability to take a step into that. But then when you get critical about it, which I think is what these containers and this conversation allows us to look at it in like a little more detail.
Yeah.
It's like, are they being minimalistic or are they just showing that they're minimalist, but ultimately continuing to seek this next thrill, this next thrill, this next thrill? And they haven't really dealt with that core issue of, I don't need that. I don't need to do these things. Because that shifts it, right? It shifts the awareness. Why do you need to go to X?
I don't think most people associate minimalism with what we just talked about.
I think because it comes down to like it comes down to a foundation of like Buddhist kind of thought in a way. And I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist, but I think that is where that root starts to kind of go down and down and down. As eventually minimalism leads to unattachment.
Yeah.
Because why are you getting rid of all your things? Because you're not attached to them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, at that same level, like maybe I'm not very minimalistic. Like I do have not that many things, but like I have a lot of attachment to the things I do have, for sure. Like even just like these microphones, and like now I've got this whole investment into like, I want to do this and I can't do it with all this stuff.
Yeah, I think
so. There's attachments. There's definitely attachments, but there's fewer attachments. I wonder if those attachments become more like larger though, because there's less of them.
But you've still minimized, right, in that count
physically,
and you
count,
freed up that space in your mind to go, I don't need all these little things. You have practiced the minimalism, but it just becomes understanding. It's like, okay, I'm going to minimize the engine capacity, but I'm going to keep running it at 2,000 RPMs or 5,000 RPMs every day, 17 hours a day. Or are you going to stop running that engine so fast and so heavy and so hard?
You can chill it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been super helpful too, because with the entrepreneurial path too. Like, I'm not some uber multi-millionaire here, but the urgency has slowed so much that I can actually like chill and be proactive towards much higher values now in my life. But I know people who have way more, and they're like, they're on a race to whatever, 10 million something or wherever they're trying to get to, and their engine's full throttle because they need to do it.
Mm-hmm. And we all, I think, have elements of that. I wouldn't say like any human is perfect. I definitely.
It's not about being perfect. It's about knowing what is your level when you can finally take it. Like, when is it enough? That's kind of the question.
Awareness. When you start to gain awareness around what do I actually need?
Yeah, but that's the question. How much is enough?
Yeah,
that's the question for a lot of us.
It really is, I think, and that question, I would really encourage people to challenge themselves. It's a difficult experience, letting go of things.
Yeah, it is.
It's so hard. But it doesn't serve you at a certain point. And I'm not saying go tomorrow and just burn your house down and, I'm a full minimalist. Like, no, like, there's a part of it, you do it in a conscious way, and you learn more every day as you wake up and you start that awareness of your environment. And then you're like, do I need to do this? Do I need to have this conversation? Do I need to drink this coffee? Is it serving me?
It's the journey of awareness.
Yeah. And it just keeps coming back because eventually you lose awareness and then you regain it. It's like a continuum. Some days you're super aware. Other days you're not so aware.
What brings you into awareness?
For me, the things that bring me into awareness is definitely spending time with the earth in a real tangible way, like gardening a substantial amount of food, not just like a couple plants here or there, but really tending to a plot of land and being responsible for what unfolds from that, because there's so many things that pop out of the ground, but there's also so many other environmental factors that unfold as well that you end up having to navigate. So that helps me broaden my awareness, because you step into a very powerful container and you have to be aware of what's being created through you. Because those, for example, our garden here, like, it was grass last summer. And now it's producing food to serve a 20-person garden.
It's gorgeous.
20-person really barbecue, and it's like we're having roasted zucchini and carrots and beets, and that's awesome. But that grounds me to a degree. And other than that, I mean,
what pulls you out? Where do you get lost and not in high level of awareness?
I get lost in my emotions.
Interesting.
I really get lost in my feelings. And then I get stuck in my head thinking about my feelings. And
like difficult feelings, or just any feeling?
I think any feeling, actually, upon thinking about the question for a split second, like not just the negative feelings or this feeling of like, disappointment or failure or rejection, but also the feelings of like joy. And
but what's the difference? Why is okay? You got awareness. You're aware of your feelings, which is kind of the nature of you. What's wrong with that?
Because it distracts you from doing the practical things that actually drive the change or the inspiration. So the emotions, I can get so caught up in this sad feeling that I don't have the productivity to make some marketing campaign or inspire some team member to do something. But I can also be so dwelled in the joy that I don't think I need to do anything, period. So then I'm not moving towards this vision I have to help people eliminate plastic in their bathroom. So I get lost in these feelings versus just staying like a white laser light moving towards this path.
Right.
And the feelings of other people. You start to, minimize your feelings. You start to have awareness for other people's feelings. And then you have to...
Well, like you're saying that you can still act regardless of... to be perfectly honest, I was not in the mood to do this podcast. Tonight I didn't really feel like doing it. But it's on the schedule. And here we are.
Yeah.
And Tony Robbins says you could just change your state. So here we go. Have some water and get into it, because that's what I'm doing.
And you're challenging yourself to do that. And I was in the exact same spot. I called you at 5:30. We were supposed to start at 6. And I was like, look, there's some things I need to tend to at my house, or else I'm going to be so far off center. Like, I'm not even going to be able to kind of pull it together to be here.
That's what you said.
I need that space because I was aware in my situation, ironically, of other people's feelings, and I'm learning how to navigate.
Dude, I get it.
Those people's feelings and going, I need to say yes to some things and I have to say no to some things, and I'm not doing that from a place of trying to create self-harm on other people. I'm doing it to respect where I'm going and what I'm trying to create, and I know that the people who love me and have compassion for me can hold that space. And the people I was with, my love of my life, Samantha, like, she was there an hour and a half ago and she wanted me to be there, and I helped her. And it has awareness to say, I can expand some things a little bit, but I can't go too far, because if I go too far, I'm going to come off center. So those emotions take me off center, and I need to get back to that focus and practice of what am I producing?
Beautiful.
What am I producing for the world?
Yeah.
And that is done through the garden. It's also done through music. Music would be the other tool other than gardening that I actively curate in my life, have my whole life. Sometimes unknowingly. It's like, I just feel like this is what I need to be doing.
Playing music.
Is play music, and maybe that was 10 years ago. And now I love it. Now I feel like step into a room with any human being who plays music and share this language, this experience that is minimalistic and abundant in joy, and it spreads so much inspiration that it ends up aligning myself with what I want to do, which is help people change, because people can change their habits and their choices, but they can also change the way that they perceive themselves in a jam space.
Music can shift you so fast. Oh, dude, like I'm not like a musician like you are, and I've seen you play like so many different instruments. But like when I discovered music again, like I rediscovered it, and just dance and everything, like music is like where it's at for
music
life.
Is where it's
like,
at.
Music is life. It's just like, oh, it can just change your state and rise you into like the most beautiful places.
And it has such a limited, tangible, real, physical world impact. Like,
it's a vibration.
It's a vibration. If I sat here and I hit a bell, like, sure, the bell exists and it's there and it's this object, but like the experience that it's creating can be, there's no marginal utility on this bell. Like, I could ring this bell 1,000,000 times and it's still going to ring. Yeah. If you take good care of it, or I'm just using an exaggerated example, but that concept of minimizing the things, minimizing what you need to do, and then it creates space for you to create art, and I think music specifically, because of its non-permanence. Its impermanence. It's here and then it's gone. And we can capture these recordings of this conversation. I could capture playing music in this studio or down at a river, but ultimately the experience of the person creating it is there, now, gone. There, now, gone. There, now, gone. Like,
and the one listening.
And the one listening.
And the one listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Be here now with this. Feel it fully. Yeah. Dude, thank you for sharing all that. I think we can cut it there.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing me into this space and having this conversation. And I had no idea where it was going to go. I think that's something that's so challenging about these podcasts and conversations, is they're so candid. So anybody who did make it this far, I would love to actually, this isn't even something we talked about, but I'd love to extend the offer to you guys. Anyone, just send me a message and I'd love to send you a toothbrush. If you actually made it to the end of this thing, I will literally send you a personal note and a toothbrush.
How do people get a hold of you if they want to? I'll put the links for like Life Unpacked in the bio and everything. And if anyone wanted to like message you personally to ask you questions about something, how does someone get a hold of you?
You can do it all through Life Unpacked. You can contact our team, and then if you don't want to just go through the team and you actually want to send me a personal message, just go. Can
I put your personal email?
Well, go look at our website, and you'll see a little section about me, and it'll actually take you to my own personal website that I've had for much longer time.
Is that Kaizen?
Yeah, it's just mitchellsteinke.com. There's a contact form there that you can get in touch with me with if you want to chat more. I hope I have time and capacity for it. If you want to just say, this was awesome, great. But I really hope that people draw inspiration from it.
Well, I did. So you got at least one guy.
Great.
Can I give you a hug?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, God, you're tall.
We're singing for the tall, tall trees. We're singing for the tall, tall trees. We're singing for the tall, tall trees before they fall to their knees. 'Cause we are the people and this is our planet, and we are here to take the last stand because we can. Oh, we can because we can. So listen to the tall, tall trees. Oh, listen to the tall, tall trees. Oh, listen to the tall, tall trees before they fall to their knees. 'Cause we are the people and this is our planet, and we are here to take the last stand because we can. Oh, we can because we can. So standing for the tall, tall trees. Oh, standing for the tall, tall trees. Oh, standing for the tall, tall trees before they fall to their knees. 'Cause we are the people and this is our planet, and we are here to take the last stand because we can. Oh, we can because we can. Oh, so listen to the tall, tall trees. Oh, listen to the tall, tall trees. Oh, listen to the tall, tall trees before they fall to their knees. Thanks for listening, everybody.